Hi guys, here we are. We're back in our big Avengers episode, and we're here reviewing the newest issue of Avengers. This is number 42. So starting off with the cover here. Now you going in, I'm assuming you're not aware of all the different things Marvel and DC are doing at the moment, right?
No, I don't.
Okay, so this is good. So you go into the store, you buy this comic. What do you see? You see, in 2 months, time runs out, Secret Wars. Do you have any idea what that is?
Just based on very little knowledge of what I have just from the internet, when I hear the word Secret Wars, I have no idea what it's about.
There was a Secret Wars in 1985, which you're aware of. There's a Secret Wars 2. Well, this is a new Secret Wars, and this time they've called it Secret Wars. So they got really creative and confusing the hell out of people like me, but that's fine. Back to Avengers. So this is a bit confusing because on the first page, they have one of those previously in Avengers, and they give a recap, but I still have no idea what's going on. Like, what do you draw from that? What the hell is going on here?
I read it the first time, didn't absorb anything, read the entire comic, came back to this previously in Avengers slide, and it actually confused me even more from what actually transpired throughout the actual comic. So in that sense, I don't really know what was going on there. I don't.
Yeah.
Just that Earth was spared, I'm assuming.
You know, there's people right now who are watching who are like flipping tables over because they're so mad that we don't know what's going on. But look, the point is that I shouldn't have to read 76 other comics in order to understand Avengers number 42. That's the point, right?
I will say though, if you just flip the page, I did like the roster lineup.
Okay.
That did help for, again, not being familiar with the new lineups in Avengers. So I did appreciate that.
Good point. Now, Jonathan Hickman, I've read some of his stuff before. He did Fantastic Four, among other things. The dialogue is fine. Like, okay, let's be honest. The dialogue in this comic is 100 times better than the dialogue in that comic.
Yes, it is.
It's completely natural. They speak like real people. There's some humor in there. I guess the question is, the actual plot. Can you tell us what happens in this comic?
That's a very good question. From my understanding of it, it's basically recounting days before this final attack on Earth, which you don't even see in the comics, by the way. This is all lead up to what we are led to believe is going to be the end of the world. So it's just recounting all these different characters throughout the Avengers and Marvel's universe and how they've been living their lives, I suppose, and how they're preparing for this inevitable war. That's what I gathered. I don't know how far off I am, but...
This is what I think this is. This is not really an issue of Avengers. It's sort of like a chapter in this mega story that's going on. Because really, this involves everybody. This involves the X-Men, the Avengers, right? The Guardians of the Galaxy. Fine. But is it really an issue of Avengers? Not really. And so what you have, I think, it's almost like a filler episode of a TV show where it's people talking about a bunch of things that have happened, a bunch of things that are going to happen. But in this issue, nothing actually happens. Do you agree?
That was the exact point I had about this comic. As soon as I finished reading it, was that nothing happened, and the story was spread too thin because it was covering all these different characters and nothing got accomplished because you're only spending, approximately 10 panels on each group.
Yes.
So nothing really gets accomplished in that sense. Aside from actually Cyclops, I think that was probably the most interesting part of this issue.
And this is the other thing too, is Cyclops, to me, is a bit unrecognizable because I stopped reading X-Men around 2004, and so I go in, and I know he's got a different costume, which I think looks goofy, personally.
Agreed.
And I know his character's a little bit different, and so it's a little bit alienating, right? It's like, oh, Beast is a little bit different, and so to like an old-time reader, they'll come in and they'll be a little bit put off. What do you think?
I agree with Beast. Cyclops, though, I have to say, I think it's an interesting departure and an interesting turn for his character because he was so noble and prone for Xavier. He was very into Xavier's cause for mutants and humans coexisting peacefully. And to see this kind of no bullcrap attitude from him, which is more reminiscent of Magneto, it's an interesting turn for his character in that sense. So I think that is interesting, but I agree it is alienating as well, especially if you're expecting the good old Boy Scout Cyclops from, 10, 15 years ago,
What did you think of the art?
I don't mind the art too much. I can't say it's as masterfully done as, of course, the older stuff, but it's darker, first of all. The use of shading, I think, is pretty interesting too. I think particularly near the end, it plays to his character that he's in deep thought, and the shading, it kind of shows that he's not so much in inner turmoil, but he's worried, and that kind of comes off that way. So I kind of picked up on some of those subtleties, but I agree it's not as intuitive or well done as a lot of the older stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is that there might be some people that would kind of look at it and go, well, this is obviously better because it's technically really good, like the color palette's more complex. But I think it's just as simple as like the page design is not as creative or as straightforward as the old stuff. It's kind of one of those subconscious things that people, they don't necessarily think about when they're reading a comic, but these old comics are designed to get you through the page. Even though like the drawing is good, it's also designed to tell the story and to get you through the page. Whereas this is more like each individual picture is good, but they don't necessarily mesh as well together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good, yeah, individual parts are great, but as a whole, it doesn't come together in that sense.
I'm a huge critic of crossovers. I don't like them at all. You can't understand the story unless you read everything else.
Yes.
And so, I mean, the Avengers is one of the most popular movies ever made. An Avengers movie fan comes in and reads this. Do you think they're going to enjoy it?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I think they'll be happy with the novelty of all these different franchises and characters coming together. I think that'll, certainly keep them reading through the entire issue, but I don't think they'll take away a lot from it.
You're right. And you know what's funny is, okay, the Guardians of the Galaxy do show up in the end, and it's the Guardians straight from the movie. The characters are all, they all match up, so that's good. Mm-hmm. But that's the only moment I got where I go, okay, as a movie fan, this I can relate to. Everything else was a little bit murky.
Yeah, I agree with that, yeah.
So yeah, there's some humor. Don't get me wrong, this is not a bad comic. It feels like Marvel for years now, and DC, it's almost like they have good, pockets of comics, but overall, there's a lack of vision. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping now, because what this whole Secret Wars thing is that Marvel is sort of ending their universe and then kind of restarting it again or changing it a little bit. And I really hope they fix a lot of those things, because if you can't make comics for new readers, then who are you making for? These existing readers are dying out, they're getting older and dying out, or they're stopping reading, right? And so, to me, if you're not making a comic to attract new readers, in a way, you've completely failed. I don't know what you think.
I agree absolutely with that, yeah. You're alienating your base. Mm-hmm. You're keeping your fan base is getting smaller and smaller as time goes on. Mm-hmm. And that's why they're not as popular in terms of their stories anymore. And that's why we've had to resort to these mediums like movies and whatnot to get these stories out.
So, Avengers fans, tread carefully. With new stuff, you have to really wade through a lot of confusing stuff to find the really good stuff. Hopefully, after Secret Wars, things will improve with Marvel. We don't know yet, but other than that, the old stuff might be a little bit better if you're just looking for simple, straightforward storytelling. Do you agree?
Agreed.
All right. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. This was our big Avengers episode. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.